Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is, well, pretty simple. Take a pile of research, cut through the jargon, and give you the shortcuts you need to be genuinely informed, fast. Today, we're digging into something really vital for global leaders, anyone interested in sustainable growth, actually. And we're asking a question that needs some honest reflection. What if the biggest barrier to a movement's lasting maturity isn't a lack of resources, but maybe too much supervision?
That tension. Control versus capacity.
Exactly. And that's the core of our analysis today. We're unpacking Chris R. Villasis's work, specifically his concept of the mature seed vision. It really challenges those traditional dependency-based mission models.
It's a conversation we definitely need to have because, as Villasis points out right in his preface, the evidence can be quite painful sometimes.
Also?
Well, we see these vibrant church plants, right? They flourish under dedicated missionary guidance, grow really fast initially.
Yeah, I see the numbers go up.
Exactly. But then they dim or stall. Or sometimes they just disappear altogether when the external support, the money or the foreign staff, pulls out.
And that's the really uncomfortable truth, isn't it? That our well-intentioned strategies, the ones designed to expand the kingdom or build a movement, might actually be preventing it from ever standing on its own.
It's like we spend all this energy planting the seed,
Uh-huh.
but then we just refuse to take the scaffolding down. And the result is this sort of structural dependency. It replaces real sustainable discipleship.
Okay, so that leads us to this first big idea Villasis talks about, the hidden cost of control.
Right. And what's fascinating, or maybe concerning, is how this control often looks like care. It feels like care.
What do you mean?
It's usually rooted in a good desire.
Yeah.
Protecting resources, making sure doctrine stays pure, ensuring things run efficiently.
Okay, those sound like responsible things.
They do. But the outcome, unintended perhaps, is paternalism. Villasis uses this analogy, like a parent who loves their child so much, they never let them walk unaided. They keep them on a leash, maybe.
Preventing them from developing the muscles they need. Spiritual, emotional, financial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Control promises stability, sure, in the short term, but release, even though it feels risky, is really the only path to genuine maturity.
Okay, I get the principle. But here's where, the rubber meets the road. If we pull back funding or governance too quickly, aren't we genuinely risking the whole thing? Isn't some level of control needed, especially early on, just for basic accountability?
That's the tension, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the argument in the sources is that accountability needs to shift its focus. It should be about faithfulness and, crucially, reproduction, not just compliance with external rules.
So change the focus of accountability itself.
Yes, the analogy holds. Structures that hold on too tightly create, perpetual infants. The goalposts have to move. Instead of focusing only on protecting resources, the focus has to shift to intentionally transferring capacity.
Because if protection trumps multiplication,
Then the work, while maybe stable, can never really spread all by itself, as the scripture says. It remains contained.
in this dependency, it leaves clues, right? Villasis mentions specific signals, early warning signs that a ministry might be stuck. What should we look out for?
Yeah, there are quantifiable signs. First, leadership. Are key positions still held only by expatriates, by the foreign staff, years after the initial planting? That signals a, maybe unconscious, lack of trust in local capacity.
Okay, leadership, what else?
Second, the budget. If, say, 70% or more of the recurring local ministry costs are coming from outside, and there's no clear time-bound plan for that to change, well, that church is financially fragile.
It's basically an extension of a foreign budget.
Right. It's not truly a self-sustaining local community yet. It's operating on external life support.
And there's a third signal you mentioned.
Yes, and this one hits at dignity and relevance. It's when programs are designed, scripted, and implemented entirely from the outside. There's no real cultural adaptation.
So if the foreign team leaves,
The whole system can collapse. Because it wasn't an indigenous expression of faith, it was just a foreign system being run by local people. The systems weren't really rooted in the local soil.
okay, so the goal is to get out of that maintenance mode and towards multiplication. And that requires this big shift, the mature seed vision, the MSV.
Exactly. It's a profound paradigm shift.
The seed metaphor is powerful, isn't it? Because a seed is inherently reproductive. You mentioned Mark's gospel. Jesus comparing the kingdom to a seed that grows all by itself, not some institution needing constant external propping up.
Precisely. The MSV is the picture, the metaphor, for a church or a movement hitting that point of total autonomy and reproductive power.
And Villasis builds on the historical three-self model, right? Self-governance, self-support, self-propagation,
Hmm.
but adds a fourth.
Yes, he strongly emphasizes a crucial fourth element for genuine, lasting maturity: self-theologizing.
Okay, let's quickly define these four cells. They seem like the building blocks. First, self-governance.
Local leaders making the actual spiritual and administrative decisions. They're in the driver's seat.
Second, self-support.
The community gives generously. It's about stewardship, ownership, leading to financial independence.
Third, self-propagation.
Disciples make disciples. Churches plant new churches. It multiplies naturally from within.
And the fourth, the one Villasis really highlights, self-theologizing. Why is that so critical?
Well, arguably, it's the most critical for deep cultural maturity and, importantly, for doctrinal stability in the long run. It means the community learns to articulate biblical truth using its own language, its own cultural forms, its own songs, its own ways of understanding.
So the gospel becomes truly incarnated, not just imported like a package deal.
Exactly. It has to be expressed through their lens.
Can you give an example of what not self-theologizing looks like on the ground?
Sure. It's when, years in, a congregation still relies entirely on, say, Western worship music translated literally, or uses theological text only in a foreign language, or explains salvation using analogies that only make sense back in the sending country.
So the message never quite feels like theirs.
Right. True self-theologizing lets people grasp sin, redemption, discipleship through concepts and stories that resonate deeply within their own culture. Without it, the church can feel like an echo, maybe even a bit alien.
Okay, connecting this back, this mature seed vision, these four selves, it completely changes how we measure success, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Success is no longer just about the quantity of churches planted under external supervision. It shifts to the quality of indigenous maturity.
So fewer numbers initially might actually mean more sustainable impact long term.
Precisely. We stop counting inputs, money spent, staff sent, and start measuring outcomes. Real success is measured by how many churches can stand on their own and send others out themselves without needing a foreign rescue package.
That must cause some friction, right? Especially for organizations used to reporting those big quantitative numbers to donors.
Oh, absolutely. It requires a major shift in organizational thinking and reporting. But it's essential if we want fruit that lasts, genuine kingdom expansion.
And this approach, this shift, it's not just a modern idea. You're saying it has deep roots biblically.
It does. Very deep. You could say the gospel's own operating system for reproduction is right there in 2 Timothy 2.2. Entrust what you have heard to faithful people who will be able to teach others also.
Entrust. Teach others also. That's multiplication built in.
That's the core strategy, not just a suggestion.
What's striking about Paul's example, though, is how radically he seemed to entrust people, like Timothy and Titus. He didn't wait for them to be perfect, did he?
Not at all. He released them into significant leadership roles, often after maybe only a few months of direct input. His confidence wasn't ultimately in his constant oversight or his ability to approve every decision.
Where was his confidence then?
In the Holy Spirit working through those local, faithful leaders, he identified and equipped. It was a profound trust in God's power within the community.
And historically, this idea has been around for a while, too.
Yes, we hear echoes back in the 19th century. Figures like Henry Venn and Rufus Anderson were articulating that three self-ideal, self-propagating, self-supporting, self-governing. It was an aspiration.
But aspiration and practice didn't always align, did they?
Sadly, no. Despite the ideal, missions often struggled with, well, persistent paternalism. This is where critics like Roland Allen were so insightful, even back then.
What was Allen's main critique?
He pointed out how methods that held on to financial and spiritual control too tightly actually handicapped local maturity. They created dependency. Allen's point, and Villasis is echoing it today, is that we often have the mandate for release, but we lack the methodology. We don't know how to let go effectively. And that's the crucial bridge, isn't it? Moving from the why, the biblical mandate and historical lesson, to the how. We need a practical roadmap, because if you're listening, you want to know, okay, how do we actually move from just maintaining something to genuinely multiplying it?
Right. Let's get practical. What are the actionable steps? The measurable metrics, the KPIs that the source material offers. How do we make this transition intentional?
Okay, first, it starts with the leadership pipeline. Villasis is really strong on this. Prioritize identifying potential leaders based on character before competence.
Character first, not skills or knowledge.
Competence can usually be trained. Character is the foundation. Then, implement what he calls the Timothy pathway. Every identified leader has a core goal. Raise up at least one apprentice who can also teach others, ideally within about 12 months.
Wow, 12 months. That forces multiplication right into the system's DNA.
Exactly. It stops being an afterthought. Then there's governance transfer. This needs clear, time-stamped milestones.
Like a deadline for handing over control?
Yes, the sources suggest aiming to transfer full legal, operational, and financial authority to local leadership within, say, 24 to 36 months of the planting phase.
2 to 3 years. That feels fast for some contexts.
It does, but the argument is, if you wait much longer, say 5 years or more, that pattern of dependency gets deeply entrenched. It becomes exponentially harder to shift later. The deadline forces the immediate need for training and capacity building right from the start.
Okay, leadership pipeline, governance transfer. What about the money? Financial discipleship. That often seems like the stickiest point of dependency.
Absolutely. Here, you need measurable KPIs to systematically reduce that external reliance. A key benchmark Villasis suggests is that for a church aiming for maturity, local giving should cover maybe 60% or more of recurring local ministry costs by year 3.
60% by year 3. That's ambitious but concrete.
It is. And it's not just about balancing a budget. It's about teaching spiritual stewardship, fostering local ownership, and demonstrating trust that God will provide for his church through the people he has called right there.
This whole shift fundamentally redefines the role of the missionary, or any external agent, doesn't it?
Completely. They have to transition away from being the director, the boss, the permanent executive.
And become more like a
Coach, a trainer, a prayer partner, a mobilizer. It requires immense humility, actually, letting go of the reins.
And is there a practical way to encourage that shift?
One experiment mentioned is the Timothy pairing. Every expatriate leader is deliberately paired with a local apprentice. And here's the key. The expatriate's success is measured partly by the apprentice's ability to multiply, not just the expatriate's own direct output.
That really flips the script on evaluation.
It does. It forces the focus onto empowerment.
Now, to keep everyone honest, to measure this progress, the source offers a tool, these 5 diagnostic questions. You said every planter or leader should ask these.
Yes, and they're incredibly insightful because they force honest self-assessment. They cut right to the core.
What are they?
Okay, the first 3 are pretty structural. 1, who will lead this work if I have to leave in 12 months?
Forces you to think about succession immediately.
2, what percentage of our recurring operational costs are currently covered by local giving?
Gets right at that financial self-support question.
3, which decisions still require my approval, and honestly, why? That why is crucial. It exposes any lingering, perhaps unnecessary control.
Okay, those are sharp. What about the last 2?
The final 2 directly address the heart of the mature seed vision. 4, how is the gospel being adapted and expressed in the local cultural language? That gets at self-theologizing. Is it truly taking root?
And the 5th?
5, who are the identified Timothys, the apprentices, and how are they actively multiplying the movement? Is reproduction actually happening through them?
Wow. If you can't answer those 5 questions with some clarity and confidence,
Then you're likely still managing a maintenance project, however successful it looks on the surface, rather than leading a genuine multiplication movement.
So at the end of the day, this entire vision, it really boils down to a fundamental choice, doesn't it?
It does. A profound theological choice and a practical one.
It feels like the choice between the maybe comfort of control versus the inherent risk, but also the potential of empowering the Spirit of God to work through local believers.
That's it, exactly. The truest, most lasting fruit of mission requires the humility to actually release the work of God to the people of God in that place.
And it's crucial to remember, as you said, release isn't abandonment.
No, not at all. It's actually the highest form of empowerment. It's demonstrating a deep belief that the Spirit of God, not our foreign supervision or funding, is fully sufficient to sustain and multiply his church anywhere, in any culture. It's trusting the DNA that's already inside the seed.
So let's bring this home for you, the listener, whether you're involved in global strategy, leading a local church or ministry, maybe even managing a team in a completely different field. This tension is always there, isn't it? Control versus capacity. So here's the thought to wrestle with. If the greatest act of faith for any leader, maybe the hardest act, is the willingness to intentionally let go, what specific systems, structures, or even personal habits in your own organization or life might be, perhaps unintentionally, creating long-term dependence rather than building true capacity in others?
That's a challenging question.
It is. Because maybe the real measure of our faithfulness as leaders, whether we're talking missions or management, isn't ultimately found in how much we control, but in our intentional, planned, and courageous capacity for release.
A powerful point to reflect on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for digging deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.